Hello, I'm Emilie Bellet, founder of Vestpod and author of You're Not Broke, You're Pre-Rich, and you're listening to The Wallet. Every week we bring you the best tips, guidance, and a good dose of inspiration and motivation to help you manage your money better. This week we are talking about retirement, pensions, and why so many women are still reaching later life with less financial security than men. My guest on this episode is Susan Hope, Business Development Director at Scottish Widows and one of the leading voices behind the Providers, Women and Retirement Report, which has been tracking women's financial futures for more than 2 decades. We discuss why the gender pension gap persists, the impact of career breaks, caring responsibilities, and health challenges, what auto-enrolment has achieved, and where it still falls short. Remember that we are not certified financial advisors. Information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Okay, great. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your background?
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to be here. So a little bit about my background is I was the first young woman in my family to go to university. My family were delighted. And then 4 months later, I decided it wasn't for me and I left, much to my dad's dismay. That was in about 1990-ish. And so my mum very rightly said, you need to get yourself a job. So I wrote 20 letters to different companies, including British Airways. I'm not quite sure I'd have made it as an air hostess. But one replied, Equity and Law, which then became AXA. And I got my first clerical job in the insurance industry. And I was delighted because I got £1.50 a day in luncheon vouchers. So I used to save them up. And on a Friday, I would minesweep the Woolworths sweetie counter, for those of you who can remember Woolworths. And that started my journey. And I've just really worked my way up, getting more and more interested as time has gone on. And here I am now at Scottish Widows, a business development director running a national team and very much speaking about women's financial resilience with the ultimate purpose of having every single woman in the UK retiring with more.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
That's
Lofty
the plan.
ambition.
So you've been working in the pensions and retirement for about 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you think has changed over the years?
So much has changed. So back in the 90s when I started, the focus was very much on defined benefit contributions. So you went to a job, you stayed at it, and then you got your pension benefits linked to your final salary and your length of service, a pretty secure retirement. And what we've seen now is we're getting to the last of that generation, and we've seen the move into DC, firstly with stakeholder. I sold stakeholder plans for a while where you went into employers across the country and stuck up a poster that said they were stakeholder compliant. And then transformationally, we've had auto-enrolment, and that really has changed the game with millions of more people saving that would never have saved before. So that's definitely, in terms of mechanism, that's changed. And then more recently, we had pension freedoms, which was huge. And then we've had how we consume information and data, which was thoroughly accelerated by COVID, because now we're all scrolling on our phones and that's our primary source of information. So there's lots of things happened.
So if you just take a step back on this, can you explain what's a DC pension for most people listening? Because that would be, for most people, the type of pensions they're in, and they don't necessarily know about it.
So defined contribution, so defined benefits was the old style pension where your length of service and your salary would dictate how much income you had in retirement. And the liability for providing that mainly fell with the employer. With defined contribution, you and your employer and HMRC will contribute to your pension, but what you get will be largely determined by the charges and the investment performance. So, unfortunately, the responsibility shifts more back to the individual. Although the employer has to pay a contribution, where you're invested will probably dictate heavily what type of retirement you're going to get, plus how much you pay in.
Yeah. I'm so happy to have you here today because to get my statistics, I often look at your report, the report Scottish Widows has been publishing for 20 years, looking at, I'm quite interested in the gender, of course, and the women angle. So looking at women's and pensions.
Yes.
Where are we today, 20 years on? What's positive and what still frustrates you?
I'm going to start with what's still frustrating.
Thank you.
So this is the 22nd year of Scottish widows researching the women of the UK's preparedness for retirement. We've got one of the longest running data sets in the UK. So we have all this research, we have lived experience from women, we have anecdotal feedback, yet unfortunately, I still find that I am still debating with senior industry figures whether or not this is a thing. So within the last month, I have had a senior male industry figure tell me that the gender pension gap is, and I quote, a silly statistic, and that women need to bear the consequences of their life choices for more leisure time. That is completely unacceptable to me. And while we have people like this in power, as trustees, as CEOs, where they have the power to make policy interventions that will help women, I find this really dangerous. So that's probably the most frustrating part for me. On the upside, as I said, auto-enrolment has increased women's pension participation, which is fantastic. So we have the mechanism, yes, but frustratingly, still we don't seem to have an emotional connection with pensions. So 40% of women told us in our research last year that they still don't feel confident in managing their pension. Yep. And furthermore, 50% told us that they didn't feel like investors. And when you have a workplace pension, you are an investor. So we're getting there and there is progress, but it's glacial. And as the mother of a 19-year-old and as the daughter of a mum who's 72, still working and wondering what she did wrong, the pace of change is too slow.
Yeah, it's too slow. And I think the comments we hear from, our Vestpod boot camps classes is that women feel like they're doing a lot more now. They're working, they're putting money on the side. But of course, there's the cost of living. There's a lot of, structural issues, and we're going to come through that. And they're still falling behind when it comes to pension. So still so much work to do. When we look at the gap between men and women at retirement, and you're tracking the statistics, the gap is around 110 or 113,000 pounds.
Yep. Mind blown emoji if we were doing emojis.
Yeah, well, we have the video. So we're still, that's still a long way. What's the misconception about this number, about this gap?
So the misconception is exactly the quote that I said earlier, that this occurs because of women's life choices. And that is not the case. So whether it be life choices, whether it be confidence in not investing, this is a structural issue that needs to be fixed. It is not women's to fix. So the pension system in the UK, rightly or wrongly, rewards long, uninterrupted careers. And that is not generally how women live their lives. So this breaks through women's life stages. And that's why primarily we have the gap. We also have a potential issue with a lack of joint financial planning for those people who are in a couple. So there are points with divorce and single life annuity purchase, which also contribute to the gap later in life. But it starts when couples decide to then have families. That's primarily where the divergence starts.
So are we asking women to solve structural issues and challenges on an individual level?
Unfortunately, at times, yes, I feel like we are. I feel like this about tokenism and performative days like International Women's Day in some forms, bake sales, etc. What we have, if we want to be the generation that closes the gender pension gap once and for all, now I've promised my daughter that we will do this. So we have to have this top tier collaboration. So we have policy and industry, we have employer, trustee and provider, and of course we have a healthy dose of personal responsibility. Of course we do. But none of these can exist in isolation. We all have to work together at all of these levels if we want to move the dial on this. There's no other way to do it. Of course, I will always give practical tips. I'm a massive fan of controlling the controllables. And there are things we can do. When I got divorced, I kept the surname Hope, and I am never getting rid of that. Because I feel like we always need hope, and there is hope, and there are things we can do. And I feel privileged to work across the 3 spheres of responsibility. So yes, I do believe that we ask women to fix it. It's not women's to fix, but there are things they can do to help themselves feel more in control.
Yeah. And we're going to look at like a lot of, maybe tips, maybe things we can do, but maybe if we just close on the, on the structural issues and challenges.
Yeah.
What are these like aspects of women's lives where we feel like, the pensions can't really accommodate?
Yeah. So one of the surprising things in this year's Women in Retirement report was that 40% of women told us that they didn't financially plan for their career break. And that then led to 51%, over half of them struggling while they were off, financially struggling while they were off having a baby. So what we have done is we've created a career break modeler to give women the personal proof points that they need before the event. We need to bring to life the financial impact of decisions that women and families make in their 20s, 30s and 40s so that you can make informed decisions based on data. So we can put that into all the employers in the UK's hands in order to get it out to their employees, because the family conversation will be had about the colour of the nursery, who's taking time off, which grandparent will look after the child, who's going back to work when. But it is very rare that a conversation will extend to pension contributions. And that's the part that's key. That coupled with the issue that was brought to light earlier in the year by the Times, where women were being paid incorrect pension contributions while they were off on maternity leave. So payroll systems where they were allocating pension contributions based on actual earnings in maternity, whereas we all know that employer contributions need to be based on pre-maternity earnings. So it breaks when it's not long and uninterrupted, unfortunately. And that's why we have to bring data into the light that will help personalise pensions for that individual.
Yeah.
So they can have a conversation as a family unit, because it's not really happening, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I feel many women who are listening will be telling us, but I'm doing everything right. I'm trying, I'm planning, I'm putting money aside. I've had discussion with my partner, but I'm still feeling behind. What would you tell them?
So we look after about 5 million customers in the UK, and an awful lot of our job is to look at what demand is coming into our team. So what are people asking us? The top questions that we get asked are, what have I got? Is it enough? What can I do next? And then what can I do with my previous pensions? Yeah. So to me, when you're feeling overwhelmed, and I've been there, I've had periods of being a single mother, when you're feeling overwhelmed, my advice is to control your controllables. So the first answer to the question, what have I got? So there are 3 things that you can do that can help you immediately feel in control. Now we can come back to these later if you'd like, but those 3 things can be done in a pensions power hour that I like to talk about. It's just sitting down for an hour and really understanding the 3 main components that will make up your retirement income. And I think you will be surprised at what you find. People put their benefit statement into their dusty drawer of doom or their big bag of pension paperwork. Let's face it, most of us have one. Yep. And sometimes the reality is not as bad as we think it's going to be. So firstly, I would say it's not your fault. Talk about it. Shame is such an effective silencer for women. Whether it's about menopause, whether it's about money, whether it's about pensions, whatever it's about, I just say menopause because it's something I'm working on at the moment. We need to bring it into the light and talk about it, because it will never get better if we don't normalise these conversations. And if I want my daughter to inherit a system that acknowledges her as equal, then we all have to do something about it now.
Let's talk about them.
Let's talk about them. Okay, so when I talk about a pensions power hour, and it doesn't even need to be an hour, we've got 3 main components for retirement income, notwithstanding house and other investments, let's say. So we have state pension, we have your current employment, so your workplace pension or your earnings from freelancing or self-employment, and then we have our previous employment pensions. So the first thing very briefly is state pension. I'm so sad. I love the HMRC's app. It is so simple and it's so straightforward. And it gives you 3 key pieces of information. It tells you when your state pension is, your state pension age, because at the moment you'll know we're going from 66 at state pension age to 67. So it will tell you when you are entitled to your state pension. It will tell you how much your state pension should be. At the moment, full state pension is about £12,500 a year. Now, not too shabby. That is probably enough to meet most of someone's basics in retirement if they own their own house. So that's their starting point. But for women listening to this, and why this is so important, is it gives you a year-by-year breakdown of your national insurance contributions or credits. Now, why that's important is because your state pension accumulates as you contribute national insurance contributions. To get full state pension, you need to have 35 years worth of contributions or credits. Now, you can accumulate credits while you are off looking after children up to the age 12. We talk about this quite a lot too. This is another place where it breaks because it's complex. Some families will opt out of child benefit to avoid the high income child benefit tax charge, easy for me to say. And what I would say there is you can opt out of receiving the payment, but still take the credit because that will be for your record. I've seen families opt out of that, then people get divorced and the woman bears the gap. And that's why I'm on such a mission to help women understand all of these nuances so that they can equip themselves to get everything that they're entitled to. So state pension, all being well, will be worth £12,500. I'll then go to the previous pensions point. Get your LinkedIn profile out, get your CV out, and make sure that you have got a workplace pension amount allocated to every single employment that you've had. There's £31 billion. No, that's not a mistake. £31 billion in the UK of untraced pensions. If you don't do anything else from listening to my rabble today, please make sure that you or anyone that you know is not contributing to that £31 billion. It's needless. How could you lose track of a pension? Really easily. I've changed names more times than I'd care to mention, but I'm not changing this one. But if you change names, if you change address, if companies merge and change names, there's so many reasons why you would lose a pension. So don't be ashamed of it, but go looking for it. Become a pensions detective. Use pension tracing services that are out there and make sure that that money is allocated to you. That is your money. It's not your employer's money. It's not the government's money. It is your money that you have worked hard for. So I don't know if any of you saw the Martin Lewis programme, but he had someone in the audience who found £45,000. You know, that's fabulous. I think the average lost pot's about £9,500, but still, that is much better than finding £20 down the back of the sofa. So you've got your state pension, you have got any other pensions from previous employment, and then you have your workplace pension. It's absolutely key that you are not leaving free money on the table. Make sure you understand the employer structure, contribution structure to your pension scheme. I recently spoke at a conference, 3,500 people were there, and I was constantly bombarded all day. I loved being bombarded all day, but 90% of the people there were saying, I'm paying into my workplace pension. I don't know what I'm paying. I don't know where I'm invested, and I don't know what it's going to get me. Make that your business. That's your money. So if your employer is on a double matched scheme, make sure that if your household budget affords it, that you can take advantage of that employer double matching. If you are in a couple, make sure that you understand each other's employer double matching. We'll sometimes see financial planning for the higher earner because they get 40% tax relief. However, we don't necessarily fully understand the structures of both workplace schemes. That is hugely important for getting free money into pensions. In any other industry, we would love the concept of free money, yet in the pensions industry it is met with scepticism. So once you have an idea of all of those 3 things, it gives you your starting point, and I pretty much guarantee you will have more access to more than you think.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Maybe on 3, can you talk a little bit about freelancers? Because we'll have a lot of freelancers and business owners, and that's going to be slightly different from a workplace pension.
Of course, and this is something that I am learning about all the time because my daughter is in her last year of Performing Arts College. So we have already resigned ourselves to the fact that she is going to have lumpy earnings. And what we have talked about is the necessity for her to have a strong financial foundation, first of all, but also, and it sounds cheesy, but it's right, pay herself first. From every invoice, from every job, from every contract that she gets, I'll work with her and we will set aside something that is manageable, because obviously she will get added tax relief as well. So she still gets an element of free money, but she has to pay her future self first. So that would be my advice in the absence of anything structural from the government. So I know there is work being done to look at an equivalent of auto-enrolment for the self-employed, and Scottish Widows are supporting that with the government right now. So that may come. But for people who don't have it right now, it is definitely the old adage of pay yourself first on every single piece of business that you write and you earn.
Thank you. So that's super clear. So workplace pension, self-invested private pensions are really important. Before we get back to the episode, a quick note from me. I launched Vestpod because I saw firsthand how many women were being left out of conversations about money and investing. Too often, financial confidence is treated as something we're supposed to figure out on our own. At Vestpod, we're on a mission to change that through practical, accessible financial education that helps women feel more confident with money and investing. If you'd like support on your own journey, you can join our free Vestpod Money Reset, a step-by-step email series designed to help you feel more informed and in control of your finances. We also run money management and investing bootcamps throughout the year. You'll find all the details in the show notes. If we go back to auto-enrollment,
yes.
You were saying it's been hugely successful. But sometimes I feel there's this danger where people are enrolled and they think it's fine, I'm on track, I'm automatically saving. You don't really know how much you're saving. You don't look at the details. How would you, if you had to redesign auto-enrollment or look at, how much people are putting into their pot, what would you look at?
Well, first of all, auto-enrolment was fantastic. I'm a huge advocate for auto-enrolment. Opt-out rates have been low, automation works and apathy works.
If you remind people how auto-enrolment works, please.
So in October 2012, auto-enrolment legislation came in where the largest employers in the UK had to provide a pension scheme for all of their employees within parameters. We'll talk about the parameters in a second. We roll forward to, I think it was October 18, where then every single new employer, every small employer, even if you only hire one person, has to provide a pension for their employees. Now, at the moment, that is roughly 3% employer contribution of salary, because there can be different definitions, which I won't go into because I want to keep you interested. And then employees will pay 5% gross, so 4% net. So employers will pay roughly 3%, employees will pay roughly 4% of salary, and then HMRC adds in the tax top-up of 1%, totalling 8%. Now, that was just the mechanism to get people saving and get people used to saving. When we look at pensions adequacy and what is going to give people a comfortable retirement, the figures are up nearer 12%. So that's a total of 12% between employer, tax relief and employee. Now, if you have a good quality match scheme, it's likely that you will get there. But with the pressure facing household budgets, employers, the rise in national insurance contributions, we have the Pension Commission looking at pensions adequacy now.
Yeah.
And any rise would need to be very, what's the word that's the opposite of steep? Menopause brain.
Yeah. Slow.
Slow and steady. So what I would say there is, if you have an employer match scheme where they pay 6, if you pay 6, absolutely take them up on that, because that gets you to the 12%. Where we've got a problem for women and where I'm really disappointed at the pace of change is, at the moment, the most basic scheme doesn't have to pay contribution on first pound of earnings, and also doesn't have to auto-enrol people if they're earning less than £10,000. Now, we know from a female's perspective, a woman's perspective, 72% of part-time workers are women, and we have so many women multi-jobbing. My mum was one of them. She always had a couple of jobs on the go to try and make sure that we were catered for. Now, if she was still working and she was earning £9,500 for both those jobs, she would not be attracting any employer contribution. and she probably wouldn't know. And that's what's dangerous, and that's what's disappointing. And the other thing I would do is, if we are going to close the gender pension gap, we need to catch young women quickly. So if the auto-enrolment age was lowered from 22 to 18, and we got rid of the £10,000 limit for earnings, we did some modelling on that, and the modelling was brilliant, and it showed us that just based on median earnings, so no high flyers, that could increase a woman's pot by £48,000 across her lifetime. And if the gap's 113 and we can wipe out nearly half the gap, 40% of the gap, in the first 4 years of a young woman pension saving, that's something I can properly get behind.
Yes. That changes everything.
It does change everything.
Confidence, the type of jobs you can do, everything.
Honestly, it does make me quite emotional, because if I can give my daughter that, if I can make sure that her and her friends all know that they can opt in, I feel that's a really good start to a good legacy for her and for her generation.
It's amazing. So every little helps, and starting earlier,
Yes.
It's about not minimizing the impact of putting these few pounds whenever you can, even at a young age.
Definitely, starting early really does make a huge difference. I'm sure we'll come on to that. I won't dwell on that now, because I'm sure we've got lots more questions. We're probably only in about question 5 and we've got 17.
Exactly. So we've talked about putting money into your pension. Okay, auto-enrolment, there's the state pension. That's different. But for auto-enrolment, for private pension, the money is then invested.
Yes.
And I think many people don't really know what's in their pension. How should they approach this? How should they start looking and putting, getting their pension house in order maybe this week?
So the first thing would be look at those 3 things we talked about. So sit down, have a pensions power hour, have a pensions date night with your partner. This might be why I'm single, because I'm suggesting
first do it on your own. It's too scary maybe for your partner. Do it on your own.
Right, maybe not a pensions date night, but sit and get the answer to that first question done. What have I got? Yep. Then secondly, I have to say, this is the most exciting time I've ever known to be working in the pensions industry. We are showing up so differently, not just Scottish Widows, other providers too. We are showing up so differently now to make sure that we are where people are. So we are making sure that we are in their daily scrolls, we are in their news feeds, we are on TikTok, Instagram, wherever they are, we are showing up differently with different people so that they are getting quick bite-sized hits of information when they want it and how they want it. De facto did a Gen Z panel a couple of years ago, but I don't think I'll ever stop quoting it. And the panel resoundingly said, get it on TikTok and make it 24 seconds. Now, we have to change how we show up, because our T's and C's could probably read into 4 or 5 minutes. And COVID really accelerated that. So that's the first thing. Check where your workplace provider is and find where they are on social media. The second thing is, so many providers now have an app. So it's like your pension in your pocket. So you can go onto that app quickly and easily. You can see how much money you've got. You can see where your contributions have gone, and you can see the investment funds that they're in and how much it's made. And you can also do next best actions, which are really, really important. I mean, we're digressing a little bit, but it's important. Nominating your beneficiary is one of the most important pieces of life admin you'll do. You don't want the person you loved 5 years ago, if it's a different person, inheriting your pension should anything happen to you. As I've said a few times, I've been married twice. My ultimate priority is that Alexa, my daughter, gets my whole pension and nobody else gets it. So that bit of life admin can be done on your pension app now in about 38 to 40 seconds. It's so quick if you're using our app. But it makes such a difference at a moment of truth, because you will not be here to fix it. Sorry to be a bit morbid, but these are the things people should know. So if you are on your pension app, this automatically becomes, it's almost a sigh of relief, because it becomes so much easier to manage. So I would say, if you wanted to get on top of your workplace pension for sure, or your private pension, is download the pension provider's app and check out where they are on social media as well. Yeah. Most are really doing a good job. I can say that with authenticity. They really are doing a good job, because we've had to change. Yeah. And engage people with make sure people are engaged with their pension. That's the most important thing. Yes.
One question, I think it's mostly for let's say for anyone who stopped or reduced, pension contributions because, I don't know, financial stress, as you mentioned, maybe, I had children, I stopped working, or I was building a business, stopped, putting money into my pension. And your report found that many people who stopped to reduce retirement savings during periods of financial pressure never get back to previous levels.
I know.
If they're listening to this episode, what can they do where they are at the moment?
So I feel really strongly about this. I'm going to just tell a very quick story about my nephew. So 1.5 years, he started in a graduate apprenticeship. And he said to me, Auntie Susan, I am not joining the workplace pension scheme because £83 per month is too expensive. Now, he lives at home. I'm pretty sure my brother's not taking any digs from him. But in his head, £83 per month was too expensive. So he wasn't going to opt in. He'd have to opt in at 18, he was. So after my head exploded, another head explode emoji, we sat down and we had a chat about really what that would mean for him. Yes, it meant he'd have his £83 in his payslip, but what he didn't realise was, and this is no word of a lie, his employer had a double match scheme and he had tax relief. So every month, his £83 per month was turning into £312 per month. £229 of free money every single month for him. And his perception was, this is too expensive. Now, so the reason I tell that story is because I'm completely aware of household budgets. I've been a single mum at periods. I am again at the moment. And I know the juggling act we all have to do. However, what I would say is please, please, please do that from a position of knowledge so that you understand that potentially you are kicking that financial vulnerability can down the road and you're missing out on potentially that a few £100 per month free money from your employer. And I spoke to his mum the other day, and I think we're maybe about 18 months down the line now from that conversation, and he's got over £5,000 in his pot that he wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
So I feel super strongly about that. I understand why you would need to consider it, but please do it from a position of knowledge.
Yeah. And if you understand that today, but you feel it's too late, I've had this like breaks in an employment, or I opted out, and now I want to go back in. What can you do?
So it's definitely not too late. It's never too late. It's the old adage, when is the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago? When's the second best time today? Yeah. So it is, first of all, understanding your start point. So do those 3 things. I won't dwell on them again. It's then, if you're in a partnership, talk to your partner about it and see if there is some levers that you can pull as a family unit to up your contributions, for sure. Then have a look at your investments and where you're invested. We may come on to this, but I do worry that we are so focused on the risks of investing and people losing money that we are really not talking about the risks of staying in cash and staying safe. And so many people have so much money tied up in cash and they don't understand that it's actually losing money in pace with inflation. Because if we look at inflation, roughly 30% over 6 years, cash rates about 18% over the same period. That is a very real deduction that someone needs to think about. And we're so good with our risk warnings, but I don't think we're quite as good with our cash risk warnings.
Yeah. I'd love to talk a little bit about investing, actually.
Yeah.
And as you say, we often talk about, the risk of investing. And we want, it's about being cautious, but at the same time to make your money work for you. So how can anyone approach, like, maybe investing risk? I tend to see it as an opportunity. So,
me too. It's a difficult one, but what I would like to draw out here for any parents listening is that this can start really early with your children. Now, I've done an awful lot of things wrong with Alexa. Probably calling her Alexa was one if she was listening right now. I don't think she's forgiven me for that. But what I would say is, I've done this right. So her and I started having conversations when she was about 14 with her first GoHenry card. And then she got a current account. And then we taught her how to budget when she moved out on her own first year at university. And then we talked about, so we had budgeting, and then we had everyday savings, fixed rate, generally speaking. And then we had the investing conversation, and only then. So last year she called me and said, the savings rate on my cash account has gone down, Mum, where should I put my money? And then we had a conversation about, when do you need the money? And she said not until she graduated or possibly after. And how do you feel about investing? And obviously it's not like cash. It's not a cash instrument. However, we talked about the benefits of investing and her money keeping pace with inflation, bearing in mind she's going to have lumpy income. So we know that over long periods of time rides out the volatility, the ups and downs, and over a long period of time, equities will outperform any other type of asset. And she started really small, like £25 a month. That's what she started with. But already her money, she put it in last year when, was it Trump tariffs last year? So she's really happy and her confidence is growing because she sees her money going up. So I never think jumping into investing is a good idea, but what I do think is a good idea are small, meaningful conversations over time to build confidence.
Yeah.
That's what's worked for her. I wish I'd known what she knows at 19. I was busy getting into debt with my Miss Selfridge's card. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Not understanding that you had to pay money back if you had a credit card. Whereas she's phoning me to talk to me about where she should put her cash. Completely different world.
Yeah.
Does that answer the
No,
question?
of course.
That's my approach to it as a parent anyway.
Yeah. And I think it's also the opportunity to make mistakes quite early on, maybe making mistakes with this £25 instead of, waiting for, big inheritance or something that then you have to invest somewhere or.
And it's doing the basics brilliantly. I see women still making mistakes because they're potentially in the C-suite.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like the Dunning-Kruger effect that we talk about, where we overestimate how much we know. We become more senior. We're almost afraid to ask. And we've not maybe understood the benefits of full diversification, but she now understands. So we'll go single company ISA. That's a classic mistake that you see.
Yeah, definitely.
It is about the importance of doing the basics brilliantly from a young age would be my big takeaway for that.
Yeah. And if you're later on in life, just go back to the basics, diversification, long-term investing, especially for pensions, And that can be quite a passive approach also. You don't need to be really hands-on.
Join a community. Community is absolutely key for this. We all want each other to succeed. We all want each other to retire with more. We all want each other to feel confident and empowered. And the power of community just can't be overstated here.
Yeah. If we go back to the report, anything that surprised you this year?
Oh, yes. So something that really disappointed me was that 60% of women, so I think it was split 49 and 11, either didn't know who'd be looking after their money in retirement or knew it wouldn't be them. 6 in 10. And I know how hard I work. I know how hard my friends work. I know how hard the women of the UK are working. And for 6 out of 10 of us to tell us that they don't know who'll be managing their own money in retirement tells me we have an engagement problem. So to go back to the point on auto-enrolment, yes, we have the mechanism, but we just don't have the connection yet.
Yeah.
And that's why what we do as pension providers is so hugely important and why these podcasts are so important. So please share with everyone.
And what do you think the pensions industry is still isn't talking enough about?
The first thing is back to my very opening point. The pensions industry, some people in the pensions industry who hold the power to make decisions still feel like this is as a result of women's choices for more leisure time. That's a huge, huge problem. But the second thing I don't think we do very well, this is my opinion, is we're not making this personal. Nothing drives my purpose more than seeing my mum still working at 72 wondering what she did wrong and knowing that my daughter is about to face a 6-figure gender pension gap and she's going to have no clue how to navigate that. Nothing drives my purpose more. When I do these sessions with thousands of women, the same thing resonates every single time, and it is a case study. It is a woman that I can relate to, either myself or that I love. And I think the industry could be better at that. And I know Scottish Widows are doing much better at that. We've introduced something that's like kitchen table conversations, like what should you be speaking to your mum, your sister, your brother, your partner about? And how can we normalise that conversation to make things better? So I don't think the industry do that well enough. It's like I go through my payslip with Alexa. Now, my dad would never have done that with me. If I'd have asked him what he earned, I'd have been sent to my bed and probably had a clip round the ear. But Alexa understands, gross salary, net salary, tax, national insurance, even salary exchange, because I want her to have the best possible grounding. Those things are within our power and they don't cost any money. They just take intention.
So just if we now circle back to where we started.
Yes. It feels like a long time ago.
Feels like a long time ago.
We've covered
You've
so
spent
much.
against the 30 years working in pension. What gives you hope?
So there's a few things that give me hope. The first thing that gives me hope is seeing my daughter's generation. They are an empowered bunch. They are ready to attack life. They are ready to go and get it. And they are ready to have the best possible future and have big lives.
Yeah.
They are ready to do things differently. So I am really inspired by that. In our report a few years ago, they said that they wanted to invest, they just wanted to be shown how. So I really like that. Auto-enrolment gives me hope. We've got the mechanism, we've got people saving. Now they're spending their money on pension savings. Now we just need to connect them with their pensions and make it personal for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely am hopeful. I'm also hopeful where we've got glacial progress at policy intervention stage, but we can take things to employers, trustees and providers, and we can take things to the personal responsibility element in the absence of that structural change that can still make a difference. It won't solve it, but it will make a difference. So yes, I am very hopeful. Plus, I've promised Alexa, I've probably only got 7 years in me till I retire, so I need to get cracking.
Okay, 3 quick fire questions.
Okay.
What's one pension myth you'd like to retire?
That the gender pension gap is as a result of women wanting more leisure time. Absolutely no. Immediately no.
What is one thing people who are listening can do this month to improve their retirement outcomes?
Definitely understand you, and if you're in a partnership, your partner's employer matched contribution structure, and make sure that you are not leaving free money on the table. Make the most of that. Take the employer contribution. It will grow your snowball quicker than any other type of investment will.
What's the best piece of money advice you've ever received?
It's back to that. It is don't leave free money on the table. There were periods where I was struggling as a single mum when Alexa was a baby, and I could have done with that money in my pay packet, but I would have lost out on a 10% employer contribution at the time. So I stayed in, and I am very, very glad I did. So if there's any way you can stay in your workplace pension to make sure that you get the employer contribution, then I would say do it, because your future self will thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for the energy and,
Thank
go back
you.
onto pensions.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on The Wallet. You can subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. We also share short clips on social media at Vestpod, and you'll find the key takeaways and resources from this episode at vestpod.com. If you'd like to go deeper, join our free Vestpod Money Reset and explore our upcoming money management and investing bootcamps. You'll find all the links in the show notes. And don't forget to tune in to the Wallet Summer Series, our slower, more reflective summer episodes exploring the big questions around money, wealth, work and life. Thoughtful ideas dissected to help you think differently. Thank you for listening.